Hey everybody, Matt Middlestad here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Welcome back to another mastermind at No Agent Left Behind. Remember, if you love the content that we're delivering you to help you in your real estate business, make sure you subscribe. All right. I got my good friend over here next to me tonight, Jerry Becker. And me and Jerry are going to talk about something that we think is very, very powerful in your business. And it all has to do with first impressions, Jerry. You know, um, I think we've all been taught, probably from our parents at some point, that first impressions are everything, right? So, Jerry, one of the things I want to just kind of go over tonight is, basically, I'm in belief, Jerry, that you never get a second chance to make a good first impression. Do you agree with that, Jerry?
I agree with you on that one, Matt. Yep.
Yeah. That I was reading this thing, and it said that you have like somewhere in the range of 20 seconds when you first meet someone, okay, where they're already like shaping you up, and that's their first impression, right? So how can we, Jerry, in real estate, how can we make sure that, what are some basic things to make sure that when we meet with a client, and we're going to talk about two things here. We're going to talk about meeting with a client in person. Then we're also going to talk about good first impressions. Maybe it's a phone call that we get, right? Or maybe it's a call that we're making, inbound or outbound. How can we be good first impressions? So what are some basic things that a real estate agent can do to make sure that they have a good first impression when they meet with their clients?
So, Matt, it actually starts at the beginning of the day. You can literally set your day by what you do first thing in the morning, how you approach business, how you approach your life. It all starts in the morning with that attitude, gratitude, and then when you're meeting people every day, you're the same consistent, quality person that's looking out, being a servant, looking out after people's best interests. And then you're authentic. You're the same way all day long. And I think that helps with a good impression because you're really being there, being present with someone, and looking out and finding out what's important for them, especially with clients. Is there's many reasons they buy a house or sell a house, and listening. You have 2 ears and one mouth, so spend more time listening to these people so you understand what their situation is, so you can help them out.
Jerry, I like that you brought that up about attitude and how you start your day off, right? Because, most people, when you think of first impressions, they think of like, what are you wearing, right? Which that does have something, they say dress for success, right? But I have this little attitude saying here, and I'm going to read it to you. But basically, it says, the longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, more important than the education, more important than the money, and more important than the circumstances, than failures, than success, than what other people think, say, or do. It's more important than the appearance, the giftedness, or the skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a home, a team. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the string we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes daily. Pretty powerful, right?
I love it. That is powerful.
Yep. I'm gonna drop that here in the comments, and we'll share that in the comments in the YouTube once we have it on YouTube as well. But that right there is something that my dad shared with me years ago. And I've always thought, hey, you got to have a great attitude, right? And that's the truth. That is the one thing that we're in control of every morning, no matter if we wake up in a bad mood or not, we can actually change our attitudes. Okay. And so when we talk about first impressions with our clients and even our team members and or whoever it is that we're around, that positive attitude that you chose to have, it bleeds off to other people. Just like Jerry said, it starts with your day. So I love that you brought that up because that is the truth. I thought, this isn't scripted. I thought Jerry was going to say, hey, well, you need to have a nice set of clothes or whatever. And look, that just tells you the type of person that Jerry is. And that's why me and Jerry, work well together, is because we have the same mindset. Now, let's just talk a little bit more in here, and let's talk about, when you're on the phone with a customer. Okay, let's say that it's you're answering the phone. All right, number one, you got to answer the phone. Okay, now listen, I know we get a lot of spam calls and this and that, but if you're doing some type of lead generation that's going to make your phone ring, you got to answer your phone. Now, what do you have to do when you answer the phone? One of the things that I've always done really well, and what I've tried to teach people, is that if let's say you're making phone calls through your follow-up, or you're making phone calls through expireds, or, for sale by owners, get out of the chair. Okay. Move out of the chair and stand up. Okay. Get you a headset and walk around the room, because what that is going to do is get your blood flowing. And then that energy that is flowing with that blood is going to pass through the phone. Okay. They're going to want to know that somebody on the other line is alive. Okay. And so having that energy, and then also I wrote a note here, answer the telephone on the second or third ring. Okay. That's if you're like in an office space. Maybe you're a real estate agent out there right now where, Jerry, we work for a brokerage where, it's basically, we don't have brick and mortar, right? Okay. Everything we do is virtual. But I know there are still brokerages, and there might be an agent on here where they have what they call as phone time, right? Where they're in an office, right? And so this is just telling you here, a slight delay in answering the telephone gives a person a few seconds to put on a smile on their face. So let's say that you're in an office and the phone's ringing, right? Or maybe you're on your mobile phone and you see a call come through. Give it a few rings, okay? And I know I said I want you to answer the phone quick, but give it a few rings to get your game face on, okay? Put a smile on and say, hey, this is Matt with the 10X Agent Real Estate Team. Hope you're having a fantastic day. How does that sound versus, hello, this is Matt. Yeah, I'm a real estate agent. Like, it's so boring. Like, have a smile on your face. That is going to bleed off into the phone, okay? When answering the telephone, you use an enthusiastic greeting, okay? Jerry, have you ever heard my voicemail on my phone?
I certainly have, yes.
Yeah, like that's another thing. Leave a voicemail on your phone that's enthusiastic, okay? If you want to call me and listen to my voicemail, it's 512-939-9556. It's enthusiastic, okay? So be enthusiastic when you're greeting on the phone. If it's, Jerry is answering the phone, he's going to be like, hey, this is Jerry Becker with the Diamond Cut Realty Group. Hope you're having a fan. You know what I mean? Hey, this is Jerry with the Diamond Cut Realty Group, right? With Real Broker, whatever it is, like a little bit of enthusiastic, because here's the reality. You're in real estate, and if you don't love real estate, don't do real estate, right? Like if you don't love interacting with people, this is a people business, right? And then also what you want to do is you want to make sure you state your name, okay? I always use my first and last name. Hey, this is Matt Middlestat. You state your name so they know who you are, okay? Unenthusiastic or mumbled greetings, okay? What that basically says to the customer is, I'm busy and you're bothering me, right? The consumer doesn't want to feel that way. Okay, this is about creating a wonderful customer experience, which if you do that, then your buyers and your sellers are going to use you over and over again, and you're going to create a wonderful wonderful referral business. All right. Any comments on that, Jerry, on what I kind of went over on just those things?
Yeah, I think one of the main things you mentioned was the energy. Like you're that first impression is that energy that you have when you're on the phone, and we do answer the phone. It's agents, we do a lot of it. So that first impression is the energy that comes off and what you say, how you say it, thanking them for calling. What can I do for you today? How can I help you? Those types of things I think are real important to give that first impression. And then people want to do business with you. They want to do business with people that they know, like, and love, and that helps create that initial relationship. So very important, that energy that you put off when you're talking to people. Good point, Matt.
Yep. 100%. Thanks, Jerry. And listen, another thing when you're, again, this all goes back to first impressions, because listen, we're talking about the phone here, but we're also talking about when we met the customer, right? But I want to tell you this, there's another side note to this. Whenever you're having conversations, and this can be in front of the customer or on the phone with the customer, and again, this all breaks down into the long term of their first impression. Okay, because you might only get one shot with this customer. So you've got to lay it all on the table. But throughout the conversation, frequently use the prospect's name. Okay. You got to use their name, right? And if you're one of those people like I was, which was, hey, I remember years ago that I would forget the customer's name. I'd be like, oh, I forgot their name, right? So bring you something to write down with, if it's in your phone or whatever it is, or depending on how you got the lead and how you're meeting with them, write their name down and use that name frequently. People, here's the beauty. So if I say Jerry, in Jerry's head right now, that made Jerry feel good because that's his name. Like there's only one Jerry Becker, right? There's only one Matt Middlestat. But when I hear my name, Matt, okay, makes me feel pretty good, right? Like, because that's my name. I own my name, Matt. Now, are there other Matts in the world? Yes, but it sounds good to hear my name. People like to hear their names used during a conversation. You know why? Because that means that they are basically important, right? If I'm sitting in a group of people and somebody calls my name out and says something about me, that makes me feel really good. And that can be the same thing on a conversation as well with your clients. So you just keep saying their name, okay? This technique, when you keep saying their name, it builds rapport, which leads to trust and sends a positive message that you are interested in helping the prospect, okay? So I know on some other videos or maybe just with trainings with my agents, I always say that, listen, the best real estate agents are the best rapport builders and the best marketers. It has nothing to do with talent, has to do with the best rapport builders, and rapport is relationship builders and the ones that market. Okay. And we have a few marketing videos in our YouTube channel that we've gone ahead and dropped in there. So make sure you check out those as well. And we're going to keep dropping in more content. Now let me go back to this. Always give your prospect your undivided attention. Now listen, if you're on the phone with a customer, you don't need to be, if you're using your speaker or whatever, you don't need to be looking at Facebook or whatever. Like, listen, they have your time and your time is valuable. So make sure that they know that you're giving them that time, okay? Interruptions and listen, never, ever place a customer on hold, okay? Unless it's just an emergency, Jerry, like you're not on the phone with a customer and go, or like if another important call comes in, like don't go, okay? Do you know what that, they might say, okay, I'm okay with it. But do you know what that says to them? Okay. That says that you really don't care. All right. And we have to show that we care. Interruptions and being placed on hold disrupts the flow of the conversation and sends the message to the prospect that their needs are not important. Okay. So remember this. Remember this, Jerry. Every customer, just the same thing with you. Like, let's say you go to a restaurant or somewhere, and let's say that the waiter never comes back around, right? And then the waiter comes back to you and goes, hey, I'm so sorry, I've been busy with these other tables. I mean, that waiter, Jerry, is not going to get a good tip. And you know how that made me feel? At the end of the day, I'm there to get service. And he just told me that I don't, at the end of the day, I personally don't care about what's happening at those other tables. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here to get service, right? And that's the way our customers feel. They want our undivided attention. Okay. And why I'm telling you all this on first impressions is that, listen, at the end of the day, if you do these things, these small little things, giving them your undivided attention, saying their name, okay, those small little things are going to turn into more rapport building, but it's also going to leave the best first impression that you've ever had. And this can all be done on the phone, and it can also be done in front of the customer if you meet them on the first meeting as well. But Jerry, I want to see if there's anything else you can add to first impressions.
I think the main thing that I do with clients is meet them at a house, get that initial conversation going. They get to know you. You get really good rapport when you meet somebody in person versus just talking to them over the phone. So I think that first impression really includes meeting them in person, so they get to know you, and then they know and trust you better that way. So that would be my recommendation to all the agents out there.
Yep, absolutely. And for years, I've done the same thing. I meet the client at the house first, build some rapport with them, find out what their wants and their needs are. Now, it's funny that you bring that up, and this might be on another subject, but I'd love to share this with you. And this can go into the first impressions because it's going to show that you care, okay? When you're identifying housing requirements, use open-ended questions, a question that requires more than a yes or a no, okay? So let's talk about that. To learn about the prospect and their housing needs, if a caller is looking, let's just say they're looking at a home site, right? Okay, somebody calls you. Ask the client about the size of the home they're wanting to purchase, right? Don't say, hey, are you wanting to purchase? Ask them, hey, what size home you? Open-ended questions, okay? If the caller is looking to purchase a new or pre-owned home, okay, which would be a new build or a resale, okay, ask about the number of bedrooms and baths needed and price range and monthly budget for housing costs. You must have a clear understanding of the prospect's housing requirements before you can present any solutions, right? People don't understand that we're providing solutions, okay, for their housing needs. Jerry, years ago, I called myself the house doctor, right? Because Jerry, if you go to the doctor's office and you walk in and you're like, man, I'm sick. And do you think they're just going to snap their fingers and be like, you're cured, right? No. What are they going to do, Jerry?
They're going to have to diagnose you first. They're going to ask questions, find out what's going on.
Exactly. They're going to do the same thing. They're going to ask you, Jerry, where's it hurt? What's it hurt? They're going to check them and they're going to ask you questions. The nurse comes in first. Sorry, my camera went out. The nurse is going to come in first, and then she's going to ask all these questions. And then finally, after about 20, 30 minutes, the doctor is going to come in and then talk to you again. They're going to do some discovery, okay? Some discovery. Well, it's no different than the housing. So what I tell clients is say, hey, listen, if they're fighting me on giving me any information, I say, hey, listen, I'm kind of like the house doctor, right? You have a need right now, which is a housing need. And I'm the doctor, the house doctor that has a solution for you. But before I can help you out with that solution, I have to find out what your wants and needs are so that I can kind of narrow it down and basically give you a prognosis, right? Like, you know what I mean? I got to give you a solution. So, bringing that up to them as well. But it all comes back to your first impression. Okay. And it also comes back to your attitude. All right. So listen, that's really all I've got this week. Okay. We're going to be dropping more content next week, but I just wanted to kind of take it back a second to the basics, because you can do all the lead generation and you can do the perfect CMA and all these other videos that we've dropped or any training you've ever learned. But the key, the secret sauce is when you meet the client is giving them that good first impression, because that once you've gained their trust, you'll be able to walk them through whatever rest of the process. Would you agree with that, Jerry?
I do indeed.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, hey, hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your week. We'll see you here next week on No Agent Left Behind. We'll be dropping just some other type of content to help you in your real estate business, 100% free. That's what we're here, because we're all about helping the agents grow. It doesn't matter what brokerage you're at. We're just here to help you and give value back to your business. Make sure that you subscribe. Hope everybody has a wonderful day and a wonderful week and weekend, and we'll talk soon. Thanks so much for joining me again, Jerry.
Thank you, Matt. We appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.